I mean, we needed cheap space for those sorts of businesses, but these techies just, they want something expensive and trendy in funky areas, and they don't really seem to mind how much they pay for it. And all these new hubs that are developing are really what a lot of young businesses seem to be quite happy with. Because in our day, and I go back as far as you do, and it's about my 40th business anniversary year as well, people needed a large amount of space because they were woodworkers, so they needed a space this size so that they could operate. If they were architects, they needed a huge amount of space because they all had drawing boards. No matter what they did, they needed large amounts of cheap space. I saw in our building, I have a big building in Islington called the Busworks, which was, in fact, talking about change. It was built in 1888 as a horse-drawn bus factory, and now houses about 300 small, sort of tech-based, young, creative businesses. And it's changed, and because I've had the same building since the 70s, I've seen, like you, Johnny, the changes, and the music people who used to occupy thousands of square feet, in the end were just working on a few computers. They didn't need bands anymore. They didn't need real music. I don't know where it came from, but they just operated with a laptop. It was extraordinary. But so I think, and also, of course, companies like Workspace, who, bless them, started off as idealistically, perhaps as we did, have now got into the clutches of big business. They're now been funded by, I don't know what it's called, venture capital, not even venture capital, the other thing that's even more grand, and they've become a public liability company. They're quoted on the stock market, and they have got endless amounts of money, and they are buying up just about any redundant building of any sort of worth within the M25 that they can lay their hands on, so that they can develop it as a mixture, really, of housing and workspace. They do, to give them their due, still rent out space, and they still have that ethos, but they're definitely seen it as a way to make super millions, which, that's how it is. Things do change. So, I don't know. I'm a great believer in actually getting the hell out of London. I think London is getting far too bloody crowded. And I think it's high time that all the people who've got the ideas and the get up and went to somewhere else, because goodness knows in this country, and Nick and I have been talking about it quite a bit, there are parts of this country which desperately need people with ideas and people with creative endeavours and new ideas about how things work altogether, to enliven them and get them up off some of these towns and cities, not necessarily the bigger ones, but some of the small ones and periphery, particularly the sort of peripheral towns around the edge, coastal towns, are absolutely pathetically in need of our sort of endeavour. And I don't quite know how you make it work, but I mean, how did we make it work in the 70s? How did I make it work? God knows. I just got dumped with a problem, which was an old factory in the Hampstead Road that my grandfather had had, and thought, shit, what the hell am I going to do with this? And had an idea of turning it in, because I had already rented out space in my house to students to pay off the mortgage. I had an idea of bed sitters for business, which was actually what I did then and what I feel I'm still doing. Like you, I'm still there and working and looking after all the businesses. But I do actually think that, okay, so the government's got this thing about the northern powerhouse, and probably the north, I come from the north, can look after itself in many ways, but the northeast might not. And maybe we should all get up there and do things up there and forget about London altogether.
Right. That's a challenge to us all.